a list of pattern of the machine. And based on that, cancer tend to be the go-to.
Well,
but yes, I do believe they're eliminating him, but they know they don't have what it takes to fight back a coup. So they're doing it the very Soviet way.
It doesn't make sense that Barron is moving back into the White House when he is in college. And I think he's going to continue going to college through a satellite of his school in New York that's in D.C., but it just seems odd. And when I hear that, I think to myself, there's only reason to me, in my mind, to do that is if the threats are so great that they feel like they can't protect the first family, the immediate first family, which would be Melania and Barron. They can't protect them to the degree they can if they're in D.C. and on the White House grounds and all that has to offer with a bunker and access to to Marine One at pretty quick notice. Or either that, or the other option is health, and he's going to be spending more time with his dad. I guess the third option is, hey, you don't get to live in the White House, just all the time. Why not take advantage of it a little bit right now and be there? But his dad is 79, so maybe it's a matter of, hey, I just want to spend time with him. He's 79. This is a great experience to live in the White House and be with him and encourage him. I don't know. Something isn't looking right in his health, in his way he walks. His voice doesn't even seem as strong. I just feel our country is in a major transition that's already underway, of course, but about to accelerate in more ways than we can figure. Hang on to the Lord, folks. I don't know what's coming, but he does. liveuptofreedom.substack.com is her website. Ours, Worldview Foundation.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Charlie Kirk was the Abraham of our times. I know that people are going to say, Abraham? Yes. What did Abraham do? He was one individual in a world where they were throwing their children into volcanoes, and he challenged everybody, come to my tent, let's talk. Judaism began on ideas. Judaism began on education. The whole world's religions, the basic religions, all came from conversation in a tent. Charlie Kirk never got angry at anybody. Abraham never got angry at anybody. Look what Abraham built. Now look at these 3,000 people. You just killed their main guy. Do you see rioting in the streets? Do you see anybody going across America saying we're going to go, no justice, no peace? No. You know what they're all doing? They're all talking about how can we make America better? How can we become better? And that is the threat to the other side.
Welcome back to True Thursday. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, civil rights don't have to be violated to protect school campuses. Today's show is about solutions for school security, but we can't do this show on this day without talking about the political assassination and martyrdom of a Christian named Charlie Kirk on a Utah college campus yesterday for simply exercising his strong belief in free speech, even for those who oppose his views. He died doing what he loved and believed in at a school. We will spend the last segment of this show honoring Charlie and taking comments from our live audience. But friends, we who love America have endured the incessant harping of leftists wanting to take our gun rights away every time there is a school shooting. But we know there are other solutions to the problem that really will work instead of those fake policies and talking points. That's why I asked Jason Polinsky of 3D Response to come on the show. Jason has 30 years of diversified law enforcement experience, ranging from patrol officer to lieutenant. He created, implemented, and supervised several innovative police initiatives. He's received the Medal of Merit for researching, creating, and training thousands of first responders and employees in active shooter response. He tirelessly works with schools to make lockdown drills more practical and real. Jason, welcome to the Rob Maness Show.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing okay. I appreciate you coming on. And I just have to tell the audience, look, we had this show planned long before yesterday, because as a base commander in my Air Force life, I had a public school on my installation. And in late 2010, we did a live active shooter exercise at that school on a weekend with live players and blank ammunition. But it was the first time it had ever been done at that school or in the Air Force, that, as far as I know. And that just shows that folks are late to the fight on this quite often. So when I heard about you and your company and your experience, I wanted to get you on so that we can educate parents, especially, about this, so they can talk to folks that run their schools about how to rightly do this and save lives instead of wasting time on policies that won't work. I appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I guess let's talk about, since the Charlie Kirk assassination is on top of mind for everybody. I don't know if you've looked at the layout of the campus and that kind of stuff. But if you have, do you have any introspection from the perspective of how you would approach that, or you would teach how to approach that before we dive right into 3D responses technique?
Any open space unto itself is a difficult challenge for law enforcement. And I'm assuming they walked it days beforehand and they had posts set up. I do think they could have put a little bit more of a barrier around the stage of speaking, whether that be some sort of glass protection or something along those lines. But, without it having the purview to inside information, that's just my 2 cents is the prep for that. I know I've been on a couple details when presidential folks came into our city working with the Secret Service, and, we get 3 days notice, and it's a lot of work in 3 days. So it's not an easy task to secure a place, especially on short notice.
Yeah, I've done it myself as an EOD troop, working for the Secret Service for presidents and presidential candidates. And in that command I was in, I had the Air Force's only sniper team. We protected President Obama when he came to visit us, and then later Vice President Biden during that same year on 2 different trips. It's a tough situation when you're trying to figure out the site assessment piece to ensure you have all the bases covered. And I guess that's one of the points I wanted to have you touch on, is that, you can try to cover all the bases, but sometimes things just get missed because of lack of resources, lack of knowledge of the site, lack of knowledge of maybe how doors lock, or where doors are that people might get access to. Like yesterday, it looks like the shooter was elevated up on a roof, but got there through stairwells that could have been secured. And there's a lot of questions about those kind of things. When you're looking at campuses to set up an active fence to try to prevent active shooters from killing kids, whether it's a college campus or a regular school campus or a private school campus, what are the kinds of things that your team is looking at these days with all this experience that we've had, most of it the wrong experiences, I will add, unfortunately. What are the kinds of things you look for to be able to advise folks that are responsible for security?
The biggest thing to me is what lens are you looking at a building through? And what we do, we walk into a building, and our team has a very extensive tactical background, and we're walking through every square inch of that building, and we're literally what ifing as many scenarios as we can in one classroom. And then we design a system to combat all those what if moments for that space. Every building is different, and every building is unique unto itself. So it's very much a customized fit to that particular building. But the overall theme of what we try to present to everybody in that school is the ability to take your school back as fast as you can and provide cover, concealment, and communication throughout that entire building. So we're giving the stakeholders, which are the children, the teachers, and the police response, we're giving them the tools to be able to respond more effectively and keep those kids safe in that window until a good gun gets to where a bad gun is.
What are the biggest traps that folks fall into that are responsible for these buildings, these campuses? What are the biggest traps they fall into that might inhibit their ability to keep everybody safe if this happens?
Hope. I hope it doesn't happen here. I think that's the biggest hurdle, or it will never happen here. We really don't need all of that because they don't think it'll happen here. I think the pre-existing mindset that educators have is different than that of any soldier or police officer that, lives their life under that scope of cover, concealment, communication. Educators and architects, they don't get that side of it. So when I walk into a building, and any law enforcement or military person I know, if we go out to lunch, watch our eyes. It's very unique. It's kind of embedded in our head. But then you walk through a building with an architect, and he's checking corners and, where the window's placed and more, does that look pretty or not? And we're looking at where's my nearest point of cover and where's my nearest point of escape if I need to. So it's mindset. And then the biggest hurdle is it won't happen here, and I hope it doesn't happen here. And the problem is, hope, plain and simple, is just not a good plan.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, the truth is, Jason, is that this is not a new phenomenon. I mean, schools have had their challenges with being attacked, whether it's with a firearm or explosives even, during their entire existence, whether it's public or private schools, haven't it?
Yeah, that's one misconception that a lot of times I hear people say, I can't believe it's come to this. And I always reply with, I can't believe we haven't addressed it yet. If you go back in time, I think the first recorded active shooter in a school was like the late 1700s. So it's a new phenomenon by how often it's occurring. I think about the 1970s, it started to uptick. And then post-Columbine, it just kind of became, unfortunately, we're stuck in this wash, rinse, repeat, where an incident happens. There's a couple days of grieving, if we're lucky. And then there's this call to action from people throwing ideas against the wall with not a whole lot of thought behind it and demanding something to be done. And we end up with 17 different definitions of what school security is. And then we have 9 months of gun arguing. And the problem with that is the only people we're affecting by the adults arguing over guns are the children. And we looked at this, you guys can argue this all you want. Have at it. You've been doing it for almost 30 years. What can we do right now that's going to create safe places to keep our children alive? And that's what we based on is this can be done tomorrow.
Yeah, and with very little money, right? I mean, the biggest, I don't know what you hear, but the biggest pushback I get when I'm talking to a school administrator or teachers or school resource officers these days is, well, sir, we just don't have the money to do this or that. But what we're talking about doesn't cost a lot of money.
No, and if you put it in perspective on things, a couple points. Number one, the first school district got installed and they attached a swimming pool to it because they knew the security system would pass and they knew the pool wouldn't. So they put the pool with the swimming pool in a referendum. And the reality is the single swimming pool was millions of dollars more than what our system cost for 16 buildings. So, and you look at, an artificial football field, you're looking at $5 million on the low end and then annual upkeep on it. The reality of it is when educators say we don't have the money, it's not in our budget, I always kind of push back and say, referendums are never in your budget. Go out to the parents, go out to the community and ask for the money. Trust me, if it's about keeping kids safe, they will pay it. I think that first district we were installed in, per household, it came out to $1.45 a month per house. So you're talking 5 quarters a month.
Yeah.
So that excuse of we can't afford it is nothing more than an excuse and the unwillingness to try.
Yeah, it's really odd too, because it's the kids you're talking about, and like you said, it's them. When people are dithering over gun control and wasting time on that, it's the kids that are being put more and more at risk as every day goes by, because these perpetrators now, it seems to be in vogue. More than likely, though, I think they've just figured it out where the softest targets are. For the most bang for their buck, so to speak. And that's not a pun. That's a dead serious comment that, people that are terrorists that are trying to achieve the goal of changing policy through violence, they're going to go for the softest targets where they have the least risk of not being able to make a big media splash and get a lot of attention on that target. And schools, when you combine it with poor policy like gun-free zones and those kind of things, schools are the softest target, even still today, with all the changes that we might have made. Well, we got to take our first commercial break, Jason. When we come back, I'm going to show your team's video about your system. And I think you used the Uvalde situation, and we'll talk through that and educate the audience on exactly what the system does. Jason Polinsky is with me today, 30 years in law enforcement, active shooter trainer. I'll be right back.
The businessman from Texas that spent years trying to bring the perfect red heifers to Israel is coming to speak in Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis, on Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. They now have sacrificed one of those red heifers. There it is burning. They've now gained 10 gallons of ashes. Why do they need this? Well, the Old Testament, Numbers chapter 19, says that for the purification ceremony, for their temporary tabernacle or full-time temple, they need the ashes of a perfect red heifer. This is the first time this has happened in over 2,000 years. The story is going global. It's highly controversial. In fact, there's even a connection between the attacks on Israel on October 7th and these 5 red heifers. Come and hear him speak live in person, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Full details, worldviewstore.com, and to get your tickets, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're talking about the truth on how to secure a school and prepare it for the active shooter scenario, which seems to be common today because the shooters are scoping out the situation, assessing the potential targets, and realizing that the schools are still a soft target for the most part. And my guest today is Jason Polinsky of 3D Response. And 3D Response has developed the system to get a school prepared, and it's a customized system to prepare a school to be able to address this threat and save kids and teachers and administrators' lives consistently every time. And Jason, that was your video. It's a great video from 3D Response there, showing a little bit about the Uvalde situation, but looks like demonstrating some of the tools that you guys bring to the table with your system. Why did you pick the Uvalde situation to use in your video?
It's just random. I mean, I've gone back in those case studies on every active shooter that comes out. You know, I wait until the official report comes out and I walk the suspect's footprints, and then I implant our system into that building to see the change in outcome. And every single one of them, there's a drastic change in the number of lives saved.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's basically three parts to your system. The first two parts look like they're mechanical and tactical. Walk us through how it works and what those devices are.
Sure. I think it's probably easiest to understand if I just take Uvalde and walk it through that way. So
that'd be great.
Suspect is at home and he kills a person at his home. He gets in a vehicle, drives to the school. He crashes. Some local residents come out to give him assistance, and he starts to fire at them. He then makes his way to the front parking lot of the school, and he starts to fire rounds in through the front window, and that's when the first 911 call was made. 2 minutes later, he makes his way to the back of the school and comes through a door that is left ajar. And, you know, uninterrupted, he walks to the first classroom, makes entry in that room, and next thing, you know, you saw what happened from there. We have a barricaded suspect, you know, with hostages, and the police response was absolutely ridiculous. That one still bothers me today. But anyway, with our system, that first 911 call when the shots were coming through the front window, first off, our system would have not allowed the windows to shatter. They would have upheld their integrity, so a human person couldn't fit through it. That would indicate the first time a police button is depressed. So in that area of the admin office, say, they depress their button, that button will activate the magnetic door that is in their command center. The door is level 7 ballistic. The whole room is level 7 ballistically fortified. And that what once was a conference room is quickly converted into a bunker command room. And all of the head and electronics go into that room. The button also calls 911, which sends a message via text that help needed, Uvalde High School, admin office. And then another text will come and another text will come, and the police can tell that the entire school's in lockdown. So once they hit that button, the rest of the school then would be alerted via audio and visual alert. They would hit their buttons, and we can take a building back in less than a minute. We've done the drills, and about 60 seconds, a high school that houses 2,200 kids, from a target-rich environment to target-less. One of the goals we say is we want this to be a ghost town. We want to isolate the suspect and provide the tools for the kids. So inside that classroom, once that teacher hits her button, that also is going to activate 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure. There's ballistic that's tactically located in the room. A lot of times there might be a feature that you pull out of the wall to cut down an angle from a threshold. The bottom line is we instantly gave those kids cover. You instantly gave them concealment. The door has 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure on it. The windows are enhanced. You took a classroom and you made it a safe place for those kids. We've done explosive breaching on those doors. We've shot as much as we could. You know, we don't put anything in a school that we don't vet. And those kids are safe. So he comes to that first door and he's confronted with 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure and bullet resistant walls. Those kids are safe. So in that case, he comes in the back door, goes to that first classroom. He can't get in, goes to the next one. He can't get in. You took that target rich environment and you made it target less almost instantaneously. The whole while, the command center is internally dispatching to the entire staff on where he is, what he's wearing. And when that first officer arrives, they'll turn their attention to that officer and they're going to basically Google map him right to where the suspect is. And when we were running drills with cops, we were saving on average 4 minutes with our system. They were confronting the suspect in 40 seconds. Without our system, it was almost 5 minutes to find the suspect. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the legit of how we can provide the tools for those children to make them safe.
Yeah, one of the things you did was you solved the problem that we saw in that active shooter exercise, that first one that I was in command of. We sent the perpetrator in with just a revolver, 38 revolver, Air Force issue, K-frame, Smith & Wesson, 6-shooter. But he was, before any police responded, he was able to get off 6 shots and a 7th and 8th shot. So he reloaded and shoot 5 people in the head is the way that worked, because there was no way to hit a button and seal anything off from the folks that were running the front office. And it sounds like you've developed a system that solves that issue.
Yeah, it really is a keep it simple, stupid. When I was teaching Run, Hide, Fight, the biggest anxiety that teachers had that they would express to me was, multiple choice in a time of stress. And you have no information coming in to help you make that decision. So it's really pray and go or pray and stay. And they didn't have a plan like the fire response has a plan. It's point A to point B, and all these tools are in this building to protect them from a fire and put the fire out. So the system is much like a fire suppression system. It's just a different suspect or a different threat. And it's confusing to the teachers. So we look at this like, how do we dumbify this as much as we can? Because under stress, I've been in a shooting before, and I've been in scenarios where I've experienced the tunnel vision and the time slow down. Now imagine a teacher even trying to make a 911 call on their phone during that moment. Good luck. There's a lot of teachers that couldn't even get their key in the hole, and they drop their keys because they're shaking so bad. And that's just not effective. So give the teachers the tools that they can use, and it's easy to use. It's literally a 2-step process for them to secure their children. And to me, that's important, is the simplicity of it. Materials that are proven to work. Not a big fan in all the high-tech stuff, because Murphy's Law does exist. And when you're at a gunfight, I don't want to rely on technology. I want to rely on my weapon and cover. And it's really that simple. So you were talking about pushing the police buttons and the system sending text messages and essentially erecting barriers that provide cover and concealment. The initial steps, command center, sealing that room off. So what types of devices are those if they're not digital? Well, they're low voltage. It's this. The technology is the same. All the low voltage stuff is the same technology used in a fire suppression system. It's just transferred to a different use. There's a lot of redundancy in it, much like a fire system. And that was kind of the model that we followed. Was, the fire systems have been around since 1958 because 95 kids died, and not one kid has died in a fire since they made that code into a law in a school. Right. I mean, that's effective. Fire got it right. As much as it pains me to say that, fire got it right. And my fear is, do we have to go to another incident where there's 100 children dead before we stop arguing about guns? Can we do something now? Because these kids need it.
Yeah, exactly. The other question I had listening to how the system works is you talked about the magnetic pressure being put on the doors. How does that work? And is it pretty high in cost for that system to be put on a building?
The only high cost of the magnets is the door you put on, it has to be connected to the handle, because per fire code, you can't not allow exit of a room. So the handle, whatever the handle may look like, is connected to the magnet. So when you hit your button and that magnet comes on, the magnet's active. But if you want to get out, the inside handle actually turns the magnet off, and you can exit. And then once that door shuts and you release the handle, it goes back on.
Oh, so even if it's a slap bar on the inside, that'll disconnect the magnet when you push the slap bar?
Yeah, fire code mandates that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's one of the challenges, that, well, we can't lock people in. I get that a lot too.
Rob, you have no idea the arguments and conversations I've had with fire marshals the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
So how we got some hands up, but I'm going to save them till the next segment. But let me just ask you one more question from my curious perspective. So the front office hits the first button, creates the command center. Now the teachers each have a button and they're being told by the system, hey, there's a problem here. You need to lock down. They have a button in their room. Is that how it works, or does the system go ahead and activate it unless there's human intervention?
No, it has to be activated. So the buttons are tactically located in places where we create safe places. My fear is, and as a former school resource officer and overseeing the resource officer program, if you watch the activities throughout the course of a normal day, a lot of teachers might bring their kids, to the library. They might go outside. They might, not every class could be ready to go into lockdown. So what happens is if you have a button that activates the entire building, you might lock people out of a safe place. So every teacher is responsible for their classroom, and every teacher is responsible for that area right outside their hallway. And again, keep it simple. And in open spaces like lunch, we provide lanyards that they can activate the system from a cafeteria. And we tactically locate 4 different points around that open space for either exit or safe room space. And it's probably the best anybody, you can do in an open space is run to the safety or flee out. But they can activate the system and alert the rest of the school that trouble's here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to take another break. When we come back, we'll take these questions. But the clip's going to be about the Catholic school in Minneapolis. That's what drove me to want to have a show about this. Was that attack? Because we know a lot about it, and I think you're from Minneapolis, so that'll be a good discussion basis for answering these questions and continue this talk with Jason Polinsky of 3D Response. They've got a solution. All we have to do is get it on board. We'll be right back.
Yeah, and it sounds like this is a situation where you have the church and then you have the school connected to that. And the details that we are able to pull about this school is that it goes from pre-K, preschool through 8th grade. The student population at that school is over 320 students, according to U.S. World News and Report. And from their website, Annunciation provides comprehensive education, faith formation, and enrichment activities for children from preschool through 8th grade. And now we are hearing from the governor that police are responding to this horrific act of violence at this Catholic school. And they just started school this week, right, Isabel?
That is correct. And Pamela, if I can add this, from their website, it looks like they would have been, that the all-school mass would have likely been underway at the time. So we're looking at a calendar. So school mass would have been underway. Obviously, we're reaching out to across many avenues trying to get more details as to what happened here.
That is very sad. All right.
Your show, it's Truth Thursday, and we're talking about the truth of the being able to secure schools and campuses in spite of the threats that are out there. And that little clip was about the Annunciation Catholic school that was attacked not long ago in Minneapolis by a trans terrorist shooter, it appears, that knew the school, understood the layout, understood the schedule of where the kids were going to be, and actually is on record saying, I picked this school because it's a gun-free zone and I can kill as many of these kids as possible before they get to me. And that's the whole goal of that kind of targeting. And it's a terrible thing. It's inhuman. It's disgusting. Just like what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday. It is demonic, some people say, but it's the truth and the facts. And the trend seems to be going after Christian schools now that we've seen this a couple of different times, especially from these transgender terrorist shooters. And we've got to be on point, watching out for this. But we've also got to come up with solutions. And I'm talking with Lieutenant Jason Polinsky, 30-year law enforcement, active shooter training officer, and owner of 3D Response, that has developed a system that to get past the gun debate and save the kids by installing the system and training to it and provide the kids concealment, cover, and keep them safe. Jason, welcome back. Before we go to questions, I just wanted to mention that, there's essentially three legs to your program. The third one is aftercare. These poor kids that were killed and wounded in this attack in Minneapolis at the Catholic church and school, the aftercare from that is pretty significant. It's a lot of children in one space. Of course, you have the adults, the teachers, administrators, those kind of folks, and then the parents, and then the surrounding community. How does your aftercare piece work with the system?
Being prepared, and me and my team, we've been on a lot of critical incident calls where you have to understand what resources are going to be thrusted your way. How does the reunification process, where are we putting parents, where are we putting media, what does a press release look like, how to work with local law enforcement when they come in. The resources that come at you are going to be through the roof. And how do you take what started off as a horrible event where emotions are high, collect yourself to get through what comes next? And as a leader of a school, they don't really prep for that. They're literally, they have no idea what to do and they're in shock. So to me, providing them information and the wherewithal that this is what's going to happen after, and we want you to just be aware and be prepared, and kind of go through a checklist with them of what resources are available that you can call in if you need them, and how to utilize those resources, and take a look at the geography around their building of where can we put staging areas for different types of things, and what are the police going to want from this? What are the police going to do? So you just can't ignore that point, because this is not, just the active shooter incident. This is a public safety and a community and a nation incident. And what does your space look like on day 2 and then day 4, week 5, month 4? I mean, as time goes on, how do you come back from this? And you got to have an idea of what to do.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I'm glad that you guys have that as part of your program. Let's take some questions from the audience. Go ahead. Shell is our hostess over there. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Buckster, sir.
Hey, Colonel. Good afternoon. Rough couple of days. Jason, I was just curious, what is the one thing you think we can all do? What would you recommend we all do to get awareness out there for your system, just so people will start talking about it and, spreading this out to every state? Because I know people always say they want to talk to senators and stuff like that, but I think it should be grassroots movement. What do you think? What would you suggest we do?
Yeah, we started this from grassroots. We started this as a couple cops, that was just sick and tired of seeing dead children, and nobody was doing anything about it. And it started grassroots, and then we've gone through, there's a bill in Minnesota called the SHIELD Act, which is based upon our system to make it into basically a building code. Parents need to educate themselves on when you ask the superintendent or a school board, what are you doing to keep my kids safe? And they're going to say we have cameras and we have metal detectors, or be ready to ask, okay, your cameras are great for evidence and your metal detectors are great to notify that a weapon may or may not be here. Which one of those two is going to stop a bullet? Which one of those two is answering, okay, here's the alert, now what do we do? And I want to hear them say, here's the alert and here's our plan and here's what we put in place to keep your child safe. So it's got to come from parents. Parents need to be vocal. They need to go to their school or their elected official and say, enough's enough. Can we please give our kids the resources and our teachers the resources that they can take their school back? Can we empower the first responders and the teachers to protect our children with the necessary resources that are structurally installed in that school? Because right now you can't.
Yeah, it's you can't. That's the key phrase there, Jason. Let's take another question. Go ahead, Shel.
We have Cookie, sir.
Good afternoon. First to say, Jason, congratulations. You made it through the grind. Job well done. So I have 2 questions if you have time. So there's a lot of this won't happen here, well, that's somewhere else. But in Wyoming, we've had 3: bombing Cokeville, firearm at Sheridan, and bow and arrow type thing in Casper. Each one of them, people have forgotten, and they just put it out of their minds and it's gone. How do you convince people to stay on guard, to keep that vigilance, if you will? And the other question is, how much reluctance do you get from school and like the politicians that they'll be hopefully trying to get money from?
I'm sorry, he was really broken up. I didn't catch a lot of that.
Yeah, what was the last question?
I was just asking how much reluctance do you face when you're going to the school administration, and to the city or county or state for funding to help your program get involved in this?
It's been a fight. I'm in my 10th year doing this. Year 4, we finished our research and development, and then we got our patent. Year 5, had our first school, I think year 6. And again, it goes back to the mindset of these superintendents and school boards. They just don't, it's a low-hanging fruit just to throw a cheap fix to appease the squeaky wheel. And they're not looking at it in the right lens of what you're doing is not going to stop a bullet, and what you're doing is not creating a system. And you need to have a comprehensive system because it's a comprehensive problem. So to answer your question, it's been a fight. It really has. The first district we got installed in, who turned out to be one of my best friends, he's a superintendent, but in his former life, he was a lieutenant colonel in the Army with multiple deployments to the Middle East. He wrote a book on his deployments, and very smart man, but he walked through the school that we were installed in, and he's walking out and he said, that'll work. And he made it his life mission that before he left as superintendent, he wanted to keep all of his kids safe as possible. But he had that tactical mindset when he looked at this. So he got it. He was looking at it through the lens of a soldier, and this would keep people alive. So he's a unicorn in the educational world. You know, a lot of educators just don't think like that.
Yeah, a lot of us are unicorns in the different areas of society that we live in that have.
I'm a unicorn in certain things too.
Yeah, hey, I hear you, brother. I hear you. You're absolutely right. All right, we got about a minute before the break. Let's take one more question, and then we'll go to this last break and transition.
We have Doreen, sir.
Thank you. A 27-year veteran teacher here. My question is this. If my school does not have this system, we've been trained where, lock yourself in your room, stay there. But if I know that the perpetrator's on the south side of the building and I'm on the north, do you think it's wise to run your children out the north door if you know the perpetrator's on the opposite end of the building? What's the best thing to do in that scenario, sir? Thank you.
It depends on the information you're getting, and that's where the communication comes in so importantly. That without that live time information feed, if our system's installed, you got cover, concealment, and communication right in your back door. You know, why run into the unknown? But without that system, I always taught my kids, I'm teaching run, hide, fight one day, and I'm telling my kids, you run as fast as you can, and I do not want you listening to your teacher. And then the next day I'm training run, hide, fight, and I'm being a hypocrite because I just didn't believe in it anymore. So without a system, I told my kids, run as fast as you can.
Yeah, there's got to be a hardware and software aspect to this in order for it to work. If you're going to go into cover concealment mode and be able to isolate the shooter away from the kids and the teachers and the administrators. We've got to take our last break. When we come back, we'll see a little video about Charlie Kirk, a great American, and take some more questions from the audience. This is dedicated to you all. This last segment, Jason is going to stay with us, and if we have more questions for him, we'll go ahead and take those too. We'll be right back on Truth Thursday on the Rob Maness Show.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
As I just mentioned, Charlie Kirk has died at a hospital in Utah. At the risk of sounding repetitive, Charlie Kirk was an incredible man. Charlie Kirk was a good friend, not just to me, for anyone who holds a microphone and anyone involved in politics, anyone he came into contact with. You'll hear it repeated on numerous occasions that Charlie Kirk was my friend. And that doesn't make any one of us unique. It makes Charlie Kirk unique because every single one of us would get a text, would get a direct message, would get a call from Charlie, encouraging us, congratulating us, complimenting a conversation or a segment. In a business that is full of ego, in a business that is full of competition, Charlie Kirk was a true friend. Charlie Kirk was also a major, influential presence in the United States of America, who's already been described by the President of the United States as legendary. No one has marshaled the youth in this country in my lifetime in the way of Charlie Kirk. Whether or not it's my children, who I will talk to tonight when I go home, 2 young boys, teenagers, who know Charlie Kirk, who listen to Charlie Kirk, or the kids that I meet on college campuses before big noon kickoff on Fox Sports at Ohio State, who want to ask me about Charlie Kirk. In the thousands and tens of thousands across this country, from college campus to college campus, Charlie Kirk has been a major influence on the young people of this country. But his influence didn't stop on college campuses. Charlie Kirk's influence extended to the heights of power in the United States of America. A personal friend, I know, to the Secretary of War, to the Secretary of State, to the Vice President of the United States, to the President of the United States. Charlie Kirk's influence literally knew no bounds, and he changed America for the better. For those that hate and those that disagree and that can find no other way to respond but with violence. You did nothing today but to point out the important influence and the great man that was Charlie Kirk.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show, and today's Truth Thursday. And you just heard the truth about Charlie Kirk, a guy that I am friends with and have known a very long time in the political arena. You know, the greatest thing about him is I've seen him grow into this massive influence and observed it and supported his teams and encouraged my teams to work with their teams, raised funds for them, those kind of things, is that Charlie led with his faith. And he was able to have this influence. I've had conversations with my 16-year-old grandson, my 20-year-old son, my 30-something-year-old, and he has affected in a positive way generations of Americans that believe in what he was doing. The reason we had this show today was set, but well before what happened to Charlie happened, but it's appropriate. We need to take situations like this where we have great loss, and the country has a great loss this week, but we need to turn it into positive and turn it into action that results in things like saving kids' lives. And that's why I wanted Jason Polinsky of 3 Response to come on and talk about their system to put into schools, into school facilities that provides the ability to protect the teachers, protect the kids, isolate the shooters, and prevent this kind of thing from happening over and over again. Jason, welcome back. I want to go ahead and give you an opportunity to give your thoughts, if you want to, about the situation, and any thoughts on how working on school campuses with large events like that, how your system might be able to be applied to a facility that creates a space where you can have an event like that, but prevent something like what happened.
First, I want to say, if any of my boys or anybody out there that's a dad, if their son grows up to be like Charlie, they should be very proud. Just a sweetheart of a guy. I love listening to him, and seen a lot of death in my life, and this one actually kind of upset me. I mean, I started I was pissed, who does this? And then I was thinking about, where is our country at? I mean, when did we lose the value of human life? And it's just barbaric, and it pisses me off that we've come to this. As far as, like I said, but to harden those open spaces is you have to bring in tools to do so. You got to look at what the event is, and if it's a speaker, you can protect that speaker with material items in tactical locations. And like I said before, the prep for that is 24/7 for about 3 days to walk that thing. I mean, it's a lot of work, and you just do your best, and stuff slips through the cracks, and all you can do is give it your best and make sure you answered all the what if questions you possibly can. And if there's an open one, fix it.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one got me too. I mean, I cried last night. I don't mind admitting it. The Soul Warrior doesn't normally get to that point. This guy was a good man. He was a good father, a good husband. I've seen him grow into those roles after I first met him when he was in his late teens, first starting Turning Point USA. And I was amazed that an American guy that wanted to go into college campuses where they hated him and hated his ideas and listen to him and then persuade him with those ideas. It's amazing. And he's done that millions of times to individuals. So let's go ahead and take some comments from the audience here while we've still got the time. Go ahead, Shel.
We have Tammy, sir.
Hi. I've been hearing a lot about the 3D response system. I have a question about a lot of the shooters that have gone in these schools and done what they've done were already, like, they had access into the schools. So when I think about high schools and they have changing classes and different things like that, and the shooter starts, okay, what happens to all those students that are transferring from one class to another? I mean, they're just out in the open. And then if it was an elementary like school and the shooter is trapped now in the hallways, what do they do?
Good question.
The first part, that we go back once the system's installed and we train the staff on the ins and outs of the system and how to best utilize it. And it changes, from the traditional run, hide, fight. And we're putting the power back to the teachers to control their space, make their space safe. If it's passing time, that area outside your classroom, that's your responsibility. Call these kids in. And the goal is, and if every teacher does what they're supposed to do, and it's very simple, they can, again, I use the term target rich to target less as fast as you can. And that's the goal. We want empty hallways. The last thing I've done trainings, and I've also been to trainings where when you're an officer running into a building and there's 75 role players running at you screaming, that's not fun for a cop. When you walk into a building with our system and the hallways are clear, that's a much easier task for the police officers to apprehend or put down the suspect. And the second, I forgot, what was the second question, sir?
I think it's, well, what do you do when, I can't remember it either. Shel, do you have it?
When the shooter's trapped in the hallway.
Yeah.
And the little kids.
In
the
hallway,
little kids, they pull fire alarms.
If we want the shooter trapped in the hallway. We want that separation between the kids and the shooter.
Now, Jason, does your system include changing the actual doors to the classrooms, or is it just putting the magnetic pressure on it?
It depends. Like I said, schools built, the old schools actually are much easier to do than these new open concept. I blame the architects of let's make this really pretty. Well, pretty and safety don't work together. And we take great pride and you can't see our system at all, with the exception of the police buttons. You can't see any of it unless you're looking for it. We had an educator on our team, and their biggest thing, and a lot of people say, we don't want our schools to look like a prison. Well, you can't even tell we're in there. You got 9 layers in your classroom and you can see 1. So you don't lose the feel of an educational setting. And that's important to us, to walk out knowing that it looks like the same building.
Yeah, and instead of worrying about whether the door can withstand an AR-15 round, a 5.56 or 30-06 or something, you create that space inside the classroom that gives concealment and cover, right?
Yeah, it depends. Some rooms we'll switch it out with a ballistic door. It depends on the layout of the room. Some rooms we don't have to.
How long does it take to install one of your systems in an average size school?
I'd say that building a house, 4 months.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay, let's go to the audience again. Go ahead, Shel.
We have Elizabeth, sir. Okay, the other question the other young lady had asked was, what about in the high schools and the junior highs where all of a sudden the shooter could be in there and you've still got kids in the hallway because they're switching classes? And then my other question is, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, is there a backup electrical if the electricity goes out for whatever reason?
Yes. A lot of redundancy.
Yeah, and the answer to your other question, Liz, he did answer it. He might have broken up a little bit. Is that when they're doing the training with the teachers, every teacher in every classroom is assigned a space around the door of their classroom that it's their responsibility to clear if the kids are in the middle of changing classes in a high school or junior high. And that's the way to solve that problem is rapidly, the way I understood it, and Jason, correct me if I don't get this right, to rapidly eliminate the targets by having teachers assign specific tasks and areas to clear and pull kids inside. No matter where they're at in the process, they get pulled into the safe space and the system locks down.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Well, we're out of time. Unfortunately, we've got about a minute left. Jason, tell folks where they can find more information about this and how they can help you.
www.3dresponse.com, and educate yourself and don't be afraid to start talking and talk to your friends. And 7 voices is better than 1 when you go to a school board meeting. When Black Lives Matter after George Floyd, they were really loud and they got their way on some stuff. This is an important thing to me. I've devoted majority of my life on protecting children, and I'm sick and tired of seeing school shoot. There was one in Colorado yesterday. 3 kids were
yeah.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private. So you people out there who are sitting on your hands when Wes and I are sending you these requests and Brandon and you are talking to you, you better get active because you're going to pay me $4,000 an ounce the end of the year. Trust me.
You better get your